way I'm going. There ain't got no way, I'm gonna make it without my Lord. No, ain't got no way I'm gonna make it without my Lord. No, ain't got no way I'm gonna make it without my Lord. No. There ain't got no way, I'm gonna make.
And I'm going to look at the heading now: Healing from Past Trauma with Lindsey Lish Preece. So, let me tell you a bit about our guest before we introduce her. And without giving you all the accolades that she has acquired over the years, let me just simply put it to you this way: she's an author, an international speaker, a dedicated mother of three, and she's a trusted resource for individuals seeking to reclaim their lives and embark on a path of healing, self discovery, and self empowerment. Her story is all about healing from past trauma and stepping into our power to fulfill our God given purpose and to inspire others. So, without further ado, let us introduce to you our guest on this episode of Breaking Out of Depression, Lindsey Lish Preece. Welcome, Lindsey. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. I'm excited to be here with you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, yeah, we are excited as well. We appreciate you and we thank you for taking the time to be with us. Lindsey, your story has so many different dimensions to it, and it creates a high level of curiosity, first of all, in me, and I'm sure in our viewers. And I want to remind them, our viewers and our listeners, to please put your comments, put your questions in the chat. We'd only be too happy and willing to respond because we want this program to be interactive as much as possible so that we engage with the knowledge, the experience, and the expertise that's going to be shared with our guest on this episode. So, Lindsay, tell us a bit about you and your story in a nutshell so we can have a perspective as we lay the foundation for the rest of the episode.
Okay, so yes, my name is Lindsey, Lindsey Preece. I'm a mom to three beautiful girls. I have been a registered nurse for, oh goodness, 24, what year is it? 24 years, 22, 3, anyway, between 22 and 24 years. And my story actually stems back to when I was 12 years old and was a very happy, confident, excited little girl, and actually encountered, I don't know if encountered is the right word, but I was a victim of sexual abuse.
Wow.
And it really, if you can imagine anybody, but a 12-year-old little girl, what that would do. And it just sent me spiraling downward.
Mhm.
I went on my own journey of healing and really struggled for a long time. Found my own, about 5 years ago, found a coach and a friend who really helped me to focus on mind, body, and spirit healing. And, um, and that is where the transformation and the change started happening. And once I was able to overcome and get to that point of feeling like life was actually happy and beautiful and could be amazing again, I knew I needed to share my own story. And so I've started sharing my story. I've written a book. I've also have my own coaching program to help others to overcome.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you for laying that foundation. We appreciate that. Thank you so much. I want to
You
get
bet.
into the aspect of the transition from where you were to a place of healing. I want people to feel the passion that you just shared recently because it would have taken something from you, not just the assistance of a coach, an individual outside of what you were experiencing, but also within you. It would have taken some level of passion, some level of commitment, some level of resilience to just bounce back. Could you
Mhm.
recall how that moment was like for you, or was it a series of moments that brought you to that place where the healing eventually became a reality?
Yes, it was definitely a series of events and over a period of time. It was actually a 30-year healing journey for me. The beginning of that, soon after the sexual abuse, my mom was awesome and did what she knew
Yeah.
the best to do. She believed me, thank goodness, and got me into therapy very quickly. And I actually started on prescription medications as well because I was a mess, and that's all we knew at the time. That was
Mm,
our first line of defense. And so I started on prescription medications as a 12-year-old little girl so that I could continue living, so that I could continue going to school and trying to enjoy life. Over the next, I would say, oh, God, 15, 20 years, I felt quite numb, but I was able to live. And I got really good at stuffing stuff down and trying to ignore it, thinking that if I could just forget about it, it would go away. And
yeah.
it wasn't until into adulthood, as a mom, I had three little girls of my own, and one day was just very upset with who I was and who I had become. I didn't like myself. I was very angry. I was very irritable. I had a lot of depression and anxiety. I had a lot of self doubt and self hate. And I was seeing it transfer to these three little girls. And that was when I knew something needed to change. I knew that I hadn't been healed or that I hadn't overcome that past trauma. And then it was also I always wanted to be an entrepreneur or create something more. I had been a nurse for years and I loved it, but it was on my entrepreneurial journey of creating my own business that a wonderful lady, um, a new friend of mine who saw a lot of pain in me. And thank goodness for her. She grabbed me by the shoulders and she said, Lindsay, do you want to talk? I can see that you have some things going on. And I was shocked, to be honest with you. I was like, wait. How are you seeing this? I thought I did a really good job hiding all of this. And
Right. Yeah.
to make a long story short, she introduced me to, well, she first shared with me that all of the things I was telling her about myself that I hated or was dealing with was directly related or linked to past trauma that I had suppressed um, and not dealt with
Right.
appropriately.
Yeah. Yeah.
She introduced body, mind, spirit healing and inviting God into my healing, into that healing journey. And within days, because I was at such a low point, I was willing at this point to do anything. And
Mm,
so I just followed what she told me. It made sense to me as a nurse, body, mind, spirit. They all overlap. That's what makes us who we are. And I learned that if we don't focus on all of us, that there will be lasting effects. And so it was then that I started to really focus on healing not just my mind, but my body and my spirit as well. And within just a couple of days, 2 to 3 days, I started to feel shifts and changes happening within myself that I had never felt before, from hours of therapy and prescription medication. And I became extremely diligent in simple daily practices to continue healing that mind, body, and spirit.
wow. See what I told you? That was truly amazing. The point is that this holistic approach of dealing with all three aspects of the human anatomy brought you to a place where you were able to make that transition. And in quick time, within a matter of 2 or 3 days, you started to see the difference, the progress, and your mindset shift became a reality to take you to the next level.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing and being so vulnerable. We appreciate that and we appreciate you. So we have Grace Douglas in the house. Pleasant night to each and all. Thank you for being here. And I hope that you share this information with someone that Lindsay is on, and she's sharing a whole lot of information that can bring inspiration, enlightenment, and hope to many that we want to reach out and impact, certainly based on the testimony and the experience. So, Lindsay, can you share with us? And I know that it would have been trauma that you would have been through. But can you explain the concept of the trauma and how it impacts our mental, emotional, and spiritual state?
Oh boy, that was the other thing that I came to know as I was started to share my own story and create a coaching program. Is that at first I thought I can only talk to others who have experienced sexual abuse. How can
Hmm.
I talk to anyone else with any other type of trauma? And what I actually noticed very quickly was that the negative after effects that come from most traumas, probably about 98% of different traumas, those negative after effects are very similar. And
Wow.
so it was comforting to me, not to be able to just share my story, but to be able to help a wider audience than just sexual abuse victims.
Right.
And those specific things that I see over and over that I dealt with myself and that we see all the time is that self doubt and that self hate is the big one.
Hmm.
Depression, anxiety, anger, irritability, health issues that you don't pinpoint as being part of or directly related to that suppressed trauma because of cortisol.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of issues as a human being, many of us naturally blame God, or we get angry and we think, if you're powerful and all knowing and love me, why did you let this happen? Or why didn't you take this away? And
Right.
so a lot of spiritual um, conflicts. And then when it comes to forgiveness, that's a really big struggle for a lot of people
Right. Yes.
until they understand that forgiveness is actually for themselves and not for the other person or whatever the circumstance was.
That's right.
Self-numbing, there's a lot of self-sabotage behaviors are common, sleeping issues. There's a hyper arousal where you are just triggered very easily and maybe don't know why or where these reactions are coming from. There's quite a few, but those are the main ones.
Yeah. Wow. That's quite interesting. So, Lindsay, to the untrained eye or someone who is quote unquote quite busy, and you're involved in a family scenario, and a family member has gone through some level of trauma, but they are hiding like you hid and you try to suppress it, not realizing that you are doing yourself more harm. How can we, as members of the family, recognize, in addition to what you just said, some things that would give us an indication that this family member is struggling with something that we don't know about, and it needs to be addressed because things are not the same, things are not normal, something is different, or something is wrong.
I would say listening to the way they speak. This was what my friend first noticed in me. It was the way that I spoke about myself, the
Yeah.
way viewed the world, the way I viewed challenges and hard things. I was
Hmm.
very negative, very pessimistic. I compared myself to everyone. I was always talked about how dumb and stupid I was, or that I wasn't good enough for this or that. That's a big red flag. Depression or anxiety that is new that's come on, or maybe it's been a long period of time and they're just really struggling with something like that.
Yeah.
Also, self harming behaviors, alcohol, drug abuse, grade slipping, trouble with work. Those are big indicators that something's going on inside that they
Hmm.
are trying to not just deal with, but maybe cope with and numb from various means.
Wow. Oh, wow, this is a lot deeper than I thought, Lindsay, and thank you so much. Wow, it's so intriguing. In terms of someone who has arrived at the conclusion that, yes, I need help, they admitted something is wrong, similar to the experience that you had when you met this, I would say, an angel in disguise.
Yes.
How much of a role does self compassion play in helping the healing from the trauma?
Say that again. How much, what did you
How
say?
big of a role does self compassion, the person having that compassion for themselves to salvage their true selves, play in the process of healing from the trauma?
So meaning their self-confidence, their self-love, like in
Yes,
order to get
self-esteem,
over
and
the
yes,
trauma,
yes,
to
yeah,
deal with
yeah,
it.
yeah.
I actually have also recognized that was the very first place she started with me, was
Ah,
helping me to understand where all of this negativity had come from. It was
mm-hmm.
all up here,
Wow.
and where my view of the world, what had happened that had trained my subconscious mind to think so negatively and to view the world through such a foggy, dark, ugly lens. And it was understanding, first of all, what had happened, and then helping me to discover the repetitive thoughts that had gone on for years in my mind that eventually became my reality and my truth because I believed it. Whether those thoughts came from myself or maybe an opinion of someone outside of me, that's where the worry of maybe thinking it was my fault or that shame and guilt came from, was a comment that I heard, and I began to believe it. And after our minds believe something for so long, it becomes our identity. What we think is who we become.
Yeah.
And that was exactly what had happened to me. And so the first thing that she did with me and that I do with clients now is helping them to discover those lies that they have been believing maybe for years, and helping them to clean them out. I like to call our mind like a garden. And sometimes our garden is full of weeds, and we need to clean it out and replant truths or beautiful flowers to help us to thrive in the way that we are meant to thrive. And so starting there, that self-love, that self-compassion is absolutely number one where we start, because in order to move through each of the stages of healing and overcoming, you have to be, you're alone. We're alone a lot. And whether you have a support system or not, when you are alone, all that is there is what is right up here. And so we have to learn to love ourselves and be kind to ourselves and to be our biggest cheerleader to help us continue moving along that path of healing.
Mm, yeah, I love that. And so it leads me to this particular aspect. How then would you advise individuals to create and foster a supportive environment for themselves while working through their trauma?
Can I tell you, can I invite the guest to my 3-day workshop? I do a free 3-day workshop.
You can definitely you
Yes,
can do that.
where day one, I teach this. This is number one of most importance. And I walk them through exactly identifying those lies, changing them to truths, and then restructuring and reprogramming that subconscious mind to work for you instead of against you. And over
Mm,
time, with simple, consistent daily action, that is where the results are seen and where the change happens.
wow. Yes, I
Mhm.
love that. I love that. I love that. So we have a video we're gonna set up for you. I know our director has it already lined up, and I want you to do some commentary on the video after he's played it. It's gonna tell us a little bit more about the process, but let's hear the video and then we shall get a feedback from you.
Okay.
The two most important things to do first in overcoming and resolving the after effects of your childhood trauma are: hi, I'm Lindsey. I am a 21-year registered nurse, and I'm also a childhood sexual abuse survivor. Number one, commit to the work. Commit to the work it's going to take to undo the damage that it has caused and to resolve those after effects that the trauma has had on your life. And the second most important thing is to acknowledge and accept the trauma as part of our story. As human beings, we have the tendency to deny or to minimize some of the facts of the trauma in order to survive. But in order to completely heal, we need to learn how to accept and acknowledge the truth of what actually happened and as part of our story. So, how do we do this? I want you to take out a paper, or you can type on your computer or your phone, but I want you to write out your complete story, everything as you remember it. Start with how old you were, what happened, what are the facts that you remember, who was involved, did it happen once, did it happen more than once, and write everything that you can remember. Please be aware that this might cause some feelings to come up that you haven't felt in a long time. And it's okay. It's okay to cry. It's okay to feel upset, to feel angry, whatever you might feel. But expect it because it's going to come. Just get everything written down. The idea of this is to get everything out of your head and onto a paper where you can process it and then release it. Once you are done writing your story, I would love for you to take the time to shred it, burn it, crumple it up, get rid of it, keep it, whatever you want to do, but release it. Release all of that information out of your heart and soul and let it go. And then I would love for you to come back and share how that made you feel. Keep following for more tips on how to overcome the after effects of your childhood trauma. The two most important things to do first in overcoming and resolving the after effects of your childhood trauma are, hi, I'm Lindsey. I am a 20.
All right, wonderful, wonderful. Okay, great. That, Lindsay, to me was really profound, and I know that you can even engage in further dialogue with regards to the concept of the information that you just shared with us.
I missed one little part of what you said. You want me to, what would you like me to do?
Just highlight more of what you had said and how it worked for you, and why it is important for people to recognize that it is one of the best ways to deal with the trauma from the past, especially since it came from your childhood days.
Oh, yes, I love that. Thank you for asking and bringing up this point. Another very initial step that we take is learning how to, is acknowledging, first of all, as human beings, we're really good at stuffing things down, and you'd be surprised at how many people actually forget a lot of true details of their traumatic story over time, right? Our body, our subconscious mind is powerful and it likes to protect us. And so one of the first exercises I like to do and that I like to teach is helping you to acknowledge, first of all, that what happened actually happened and that it's part of your story, which also helps you to accept it. Then you can process it. You can work through it. You can do the things you need to do to process it, but then to release it and to let it go.
Yeah.
One of the other parts of releasing is actually, if it's a letter you've written down, or this is what I did, I actually delivered all of those letters to my perpetrator. And for me at that time, that was what I needed to do to process and to release all of that junk inside. The more we keep it inside, the more negative effects we're going to see and feel, and the longer we keep it inside as well. And so it's so important to take the time to do this exercise. However, I will say, if you've done this before, it's not helpful for you to keep continuing and going back and doing it again, because it brings up pain and hurt. And it's not absolutely necessary. So if you are someone who has been through that, has been through the pain, have processed it or recognized that trauma, that I wouldn't advise you to go back and do it again. That can do more harm than good. But if you've never done this, it might be a really good exercise just to help you to really be able to walk through what happened and to be able to acknowledge and learn to accept it as part of your story and not part of your destiny or part of who you are, but just something that happened and something that you get to choose how to respond to or move on from.
Yes, wonderful. I love that. I love that. I'm reminded of what you said earlier with regards to meeting this individual that helped you look at the holistic aspects of the healing process. And I'm thinking, Lindsay, when someone realizes that they are in a similar position to where you have been, how should they seek professional help? What are the things that they should seek for with regards to someone who can bring them to a place of realization and bring them out of the darkness, as you so rightly describe it? In terms of, do they look for a therapist? Do they look for a life and development coach? Do they look for a counselor? Do they look for a psychologist? How do they seek that level of professional help You were God blessed. God sent an angel for you. But other people's situation or experience might be different. How would you advise them to seek that level of professional help?
That's a tough question because I think my mind has shifted a little bit over the years. I
Uh-huh.
did many years of talk therapy as a little girl right after the incident and when I was really struggling. And
Okay.
that helped. And that was a therapist, right? That was a therapist. And it helped me to continue living. I started to look forward to those visits to unload and to get everything off my shoulders. And I would leave there. I remember leaving and just feeling free again, like, okay, I can take on what tomorrow brings.
Yeah.
Without that therapy, I was a disaster. So
Wow.
I absolutely encourage therapy. And if that works for you, if you are someone that just has not worked for you, you have tried it and you are still struggling, or maybe you don't really connect with that therapist, keep looking to find someone. Um, but what I can say is it wasn't until I found someone who was focused on body, mind, and spirit that I was able to really dive into real transformational healing. And like I said, I am not a therapist. Through my program, I am sharing my nursing knowledge and then my own experience through a spiritual a body and mind journey and what I did that worked for me. I tried many things. It was over the body, mind, spirit in particular was about a 6-year journey. And so I've compiled everything that I loved that worked for me. I actually share a lot of different things so that you can pick and choose. Like, I like that, or that doesn't speak to me. The other thing that I have heard from my own clients that have said, I've asked them, like, why did you choose this program, and what sets my program apart from maybe something else that you have done? And the biggest thing that I have heard, there's two things, is it was so nice to be able to be coached by someone who had experienced trauma
Mm,
themselves,
yeah.
who
Yeah.
had been through it, who had seen all the ugly, the yuck, understood that, passed no judgment because they knew what it felt like themselves,
Hmm.
and then was able to take their hand and guide them step by step through. The
Wow.
second thing was the biggest focus in my program is inviting God into your healing journey. And the
Hmm.
reason why is because we can do a whole lot of different things that we are taught by our therapists, by coaches, by people who have been experienced. And those things are necessary, but we can't get to a place of true healing on our own.
Right.
There is only one true healer. And
Hmm.
if you want that next level of healing and real, true, long term transformational healing, God is the only one who can do that. And He knows you personally. And so I focus a lot in my program on teaching you how to create a personal relationship with God and how to talk to Him, how to tune into His voice, how to hear Him, how to follow His direction, and how that will just take your healing journey to a completely different level that you just cannot find anywhere else.
Yeah, that deserves a trumpet or a drum roll or something.
Mhm.
Wonderful, wonderful, Lindsay. Thank you so much. I want to focus on your publication. It was not your fault. Congratulations on doing that. Tell us what inspired you to do the writing. We have it up on the screen there virtually on the top of your left hand side, and so that people can know exactly what we're speaking about. But in your own
What
words,
is
Lindsay,
holistic
there you go.
healing and what
Tell
are
us
the
what
benefits?
inspired you to do the
This is a
writing
new
and
concept
how much
that
of an
I
yeah.
came across about five
Yes.
years ago. And
Oh
let's talk.
no. How
Oh
come?
yeah.
There we go.
Okay.
Okay, so my book has actually been republished.
Mm-hmm.
This is the new version. Just when you go to find this, if you can't find the one that you can see in the upper right-hand corner, this is the new version on Amazon.
Right.
And also has a workbook to it and an audiobook and an ebook. So it makes it a little more user-friendly for everyone. But the story behind what caused me to write this book was actually, oh, it was probably 3 years ago. That coach that helped me, that was my angel in disguise. She ran a happy health challenge online with women.
Okay.
And she invited me to come on to that and to share my story. And it was, again, it wasn't trauma survivors. It was just women who were looking for happiness, to be happier.
Yeah.
And as I shared my story, my transformation, I was blown away by the response
Okay.
of just, tell me more. What did you do? This is me. I need direction. Help me. There was such a response to people who could relate to overcoming those after effects, the anger, the depression, the anxiety, the self-doubt, that I recognized at that point that I needed to share my story, that somehow I needed to get it out there, and that I needed to share how, not just my story, but how I was able to overcome those after effects and what that looked like. And so that's where the book came from. And and like I said, so I do share my story in there, but I also have learned that many similar after effects haunt most trauma victims. And
Mm,
so this book is not just for sexual abuse survivors. It
yeah.
can help you too if you have had any type of trauma, because it then walks you through what to do. It's some of those exercises that I shared. And again, this book is about 2 years old, 3 years. I'm trying to remember when I first published it, maybe 3 years. And so
Yeah.
my coaching program takes what I teach in this book, but I have amplified it and added a whole bunch to that coaching program, and then that one-on-one direction that you get with that. But that book is wonderful. It will help you to walk through anger, through anxiety, depression, through the negative, the self-doubt.
Mm-hmm.
It also talks about healing and or forgiveness and how forgiveness is for you. It also talks about developing a relationship with God. Um, and it's a wonderful resource. It comes with a workbook so you can go to work and do the work instead of just reading what I did. You can apply it in your life.
Okay, so Lindsay, how can we get the book? How can we purchase a copy of the book? Where should we go?
It is on Amazon. I can
Uh,
send a link. I don't know if you can post a link somewhere. I do
yep.
have a link to it, or you can search Lindsey Lish Preece. You can see my name in the top,
Mm-hmm.
and it was not your fault, and it should come right up.
Right. Right.
And
And
but we
we
can
should,
also post the link to that as well.
right. We'll also put it in the show notes as well, so people would know exactly where they can get a copy of your publication. Thank you so much for sharing with
You're welcome.
regards to It Was Not Your Fault. I want to take a quick break now and focus on the thought of the week. If our producer could put it up, we just share it with our audience and we get back to this intriguing episode entitled Healing from Past Trauma with Lindsey Lish Preece. The thought for the week, it says the faults of every man are an indication that we are always a work in progress. Embrace the journey. I will repeat. The thought for the week, the faults of every man are an indication that we are always a work in progress. Embrace the journey. Thank you, Dexter, for helping out with the thought for the week. So, Lindsay, as we look to go forward with regards to the people that you deal with, your clients and so on, what are some of the things that they share with you as their challenges that they face that you have to immediately address? Or is it that you have specific programs that would be endemic to certain conditions? And then as they come and they reveal themselves, you send them in a particular direction.
So the program, it was actually, yeah, it's a 9 session
The
program.
number one
Uh-huh.
hack to get free is
We're here.
silence.
Go ahead.
So many
Oh,
of you
maybe is
suffer
that
in
just on my
silence
end that
and
I can
you're
hear that
afraid of
commercial?
being still and quiet and getting silent.
I hear a really loud commercial. There we go. There we
Okay.
go. Okay, so the program actually, so you asked, what are the main things that people come? What was your first question?
Yeah. In terms of what they bring or present towards you with regards to their challenges, is there a specific pattern or do you see different challenges and then you have a program that you would send them in either this direction or the other, depending on the nature of the challenge that they're experiencing in their trauma?
So my program is actually for women who are tired of the negativity, of the after effects, who have dealt with it, are sick of it, and they are ready to move on, to put it behind them. They're not in the middle of something to where they're still dealing with it or struggling with it, or um, you have to be at a point where you are ready to let it go. You just need direction to get rid of it, to let it go. That's what my program does, and that's what we focus on. But most people that come, we talk about trauma or adversity right from the beginning. So I put out a lot of content as well to help people understand who this program is for, because a lot of times I think when women hear trauma, or they hear mostly that word trauma, they just think, I don't think I've been through trauma. Don't recognize
Yes, yes,
the wide, the huge different, all of the different things that mean trauma, right? And so I like to address that first of all, to help people understand that pretty much all of us have been through some type of trauma. It
yeah,
just depends on if we have faced it and dealt with it. And so I like to talk about small t trauma versus normal trauma. It doesn't have to be sexual abuse to be considered trauma. It can be bullying. It can be being a child in a large family and feeling unseen. Actually, a really good definition of trauma is anything that caused you to feel unseen, unheard, or unloved, or unsafe. We can add unsafe in that as well. And it doesn't matter how old you were when this happened. If you felt any of those things during any type of event, that causes trauma response in your body. And if we try to suppress it and hide it, we will end up with those negative effects eventually. And so I like to really make it clear what trauma is, so that people can recognize, you know what, I think I do have some things that I need to work through. That maybe that is why I'm so depressed or feeling so much anxiety or struggling with this self-doubt and not being able to move forward. I love to help women work through that, just first of all to acknowledge, accept, and release that trauma, but then to work on healing that mind, that body, and that spirit. And then all of a sudden, this happens every time. It's a beautiful thing to watch. These women, as they're able to release and able to start healing these parts of their body, they're able to, it's like this light bulb goes on. And all of a sudden, they're like, wow, I think I'm ready to. And then they fill in the blank. Like, finally, I feel like I can be the mom I've always wanted to be. I'm not feeling all of this heaviness and weight from whatever, or I've always wanted to go to school and do this, or I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I've always wanted to do XYZ. And they now, because they're able to let go of and get rid of all the energy they have focused for so long on all of this negativity, it's now open to a whole new area of, now what can I create, and who can I become, and what can I make of my life? What is my purpose? Once they're able to get past that point and get rid of all of that negativity.
yeah. And I can see how passionate and deep and rewarding this is for you. Your face all
It
lighted up as you speak about it. So that's a wonderful sign, because it means you're fully committed and deeply concerned about the well-being of the people that you engage with as your clients on a daily basis. We have a comment by Gracie Vincent. I'd like to put it up on the screen and I will read it. She says, "You must have a relationship with God so your problem can work for you, and you must be a true believer." Wow. Comments, Lindsay.
That is absolutely true. My private Facebook group, I just actually changed the name today, but previous to today, it was Christian Women Transforming Pain into Purpose with Him, meaning Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And I named it that for a specific reason, and it's exactly what you just said. Um, at first, I really struggled with sharing the truth of my transformation, which is God, which was
Hmm.
such a huge part of my transformation. I was
Right.
really worried about offending others or imposing my beliefs, and so I held back a lot. And as I tried to share my story, I just kept noticing that I would go to say something and then I would keep hold back, and I couldn't share that because I was worried about talking about God and offending someone or whatever. And I finally surrendered and just said, you know what? Not only is the key aspect of my healing God, but that is what I have to share. And that is what's going to make my program stand apart from others. And
Yeah.
so my group specifically is for Christian women because I talk about God very openly. Those who
Okay.
don't have a relationship with God or don't believe in God are not going to be comfortable in my group. And so
Mm,
you're right. You're right. In order for that to work for you, it's something that has to be something you can develop, or something that maybe you already have. I have had 2 or 3 women privately message me and say, I'm not, I don't really believe in God, or I'm not a Christian, but I really want to be a part of your group. Is that okay?
yeah.
And I say, absolutely. If you want to come in, the only
Yeah.
reason I'm asking these questions is for your protection and for your, I want you to be comfortable in that group and hearing the
Yeah.
things that I have to say.
Yeah. Wonderful. Wonderful. I applaud you. I applaud you, Lindsay. So, in dealing with the practical aspects of overcoming trauma, do you experience from time to time people having setbacks or what we call trigger moments,
Yes.
and they have the challenge of dealing with that as well?
Yes, yes. This I can give you a great experience with one of my clients actually,
Sure.
who in the middle of the program. So we do, like I was saying, I'm really big on consistent daily, simple, consistent daily action. And it's specific action. It's specific things that I tell you to do that helps to retrain and restructure that subconscious mind. Um, and so you start to feel like you're progressing, right? But one thing we know is life happens. Life trauma's not over. If you've dealt with trauma or adversity or something that's been difficult in your life, we know that there's always going to be more. And so a big part of the program is giving you tools to have forever for the future as well, when something else comes up, to help you to know how to deal with it instead of suppress it. And I had a client who was actually probably at least halfway through the program, and she called me and she was ecstatic. And I was like, what's going on? She was like, I have to tell you this. She said, I just had an encounter with a family member that she said, normally the last time this happened, the last few, whatever, however many times this happened, I fell apart for months. I felt this downward spiral and I was a disaster. And she said, it took me about 20 minutes as I started to use the things you have taught me and talk to myself and invite God in. And as I started to do those things, I knew that what was happening had nothing to do with me. I had to block out the noise, that I
Yes.
had to move forward and just trust myself and love myself and let it go. And she said, I feel amazing. I can't believe it. This is really working for me. And so it's really fun to see those transformations start to happen. Not just the transformation, but then to see them start to use those tools in everyday life
Yeah.
to up level their life, to change it from
Mhm.
where they were before, to not going right back to where you were or where you started because something else happens, but to know now what to do with what is happening and what is coming at you.
Yeah. How important, Lindsay, is the role of community and support systems in the healing or getting past the negative aspects of the trauma? And the reason why I bring that up is because I've heard of people being involved in support groups.
Mhm.
For example, AA, or there are other special groups that they have these special meetings that people come and they share their stories and they express what they had been through, and they can openly display their feelings and cry, and they feel a sense of relief and hope after. How important is that, and is it something that you would recommend as part of the program for healing and getting past the trauma?
I would say it absolutely depends on the person.
Hmm.
For me, I love community support. I love external validation and support and help. However, I have a daughter who is completely opposite. So and as well as I've worked with different clients, I've seen some that are just open and want to share and want advice and want feedback from the community, not just me, but the community as well. And I've seen others who just like to sit back and listen. or that when we are one-on-one and in a private conversation, they're a little bit harder to open up. But then once they do, they feel safe and are able to talk and to get those innermost feelings out. I think that if it's something that you enjoy, is that community. I have a private Facebook group that is full of women on a healing journey. And some you will see in it, some talk with each other and ask for ideas and get ideas. Others are just standby, and that's okay. Whatever feels good for you is good for you. It doesn't need to be one way or the other. And so whatever you are comfortable with is what you should move forward with. And so I hope that helped to answer the question. I think that once you become a part of the program, you get to decide. I don't tell you what to do. I meet you where you are, and what you want this program to look like for you, and how much you want me to be involved and how much you want to share is up to you. You don't even have to share your trauma if you don't want to. That it's not necessary for you to be able to heal.
Wow. Yeah. I love that concept. That's really wonderful. It gives someone the opportunity or the choice to decide what is more comfortable or compatible to their form of healing and overcoming. Now, in terms of your publication, the book, do you have the opportunity, Lindsay, to do any live book talks where you meet with people and they ask questions on the book and you can respond to them in real time, in addition to them having the opportunity to read the book?
I have never done that. And maybe that's because that's where the coaching comes. Maybe that's why I started the coaching program, is because I would get a lot of questions like, help guide me through this. I love this exercise. It makes sense to me, but I don't know how to apply it for me. Can you help me? And that's where that coaching program comes in.
Wow. Okay, I get it. So, what does the future look like for the work that you're doing and the progress that you see with the clients that you're dealing with? Are there anything special in the works? Maybe another publication or something?
Right now, I have been a guest on quite a few podcasts, just getting my story out and helping people to be aware of what is available for them. I also have a 3-day workshop that I do every month that is free for anyone to come in and to enjoy an hour of free training and coaching for 3 days in a row. That introduces you to that program, but also helps you to start feeling and seeing the results for yourself. And then I have the coaching program as well. That is a 9-session course over a 4-month period. I like to give you time in between to put into practice what I have taught and to start applying it and making new habits so that you can get the most out of the program as possible. And I'm just excited to really share this message of hope and healing. I know there are a lot of women out there who have faced pretty rough things that just feel like life is useless, is over for them, that there's no hope there, and that they don't feel like there's really anything to look forward to. And that is absolutely untrue. No matter who you are or what you've been through, it is absolutely possible to overcome and to heal and to move past that. And that key again is God. That key point is including God in that healing, which I help you with. And I'm just excited to be able to watch more transformations. I knew what it did for me. I hoped it would do what it did for me. And every single time I'm working with someone new, it is so fun to watch their individual transformation and then to see where they end up at the end of the program and what their new ideas for life become.
Yeah. Wow. Wonderful. So, Dexter, if you can put up the other video, Holistic Healing, as we approaching the last 10 minutes or so of the program, this episode. So, folks, you've been listening to Lindsey Preece as she speaks about her experience and her expertise and the work that she's doing as a coach dealing with women in particular who have experienced some level of trauma, particularly in their childhood days, and are now struggling with the reality of how do I overcome? How do I become empowered? How do I fulfill
What
my
is
God-given
holistic
purpose?
healing?
Here's the video.
And what are the benefits? This was a new concept that I came across about 5 years ago. And let's talk about it when it comes to trauma. It really can be holistic healing for anything, but because I covered the topics that I do, let's talk about it when it comes to trauma. So holistic healing is actually focusing on your physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional health when it comes to healing. It's almost like a pie with 4 puzzle pieces. And in order to have full long-term healing, you need to focus on healing all 4 aspects instead of maybe just one. So, and what are the benefits? Well, each of those areas overlap. And so when we heal or work on one area, we're still going to have weaknesses and struggles in those other areas. So what are the benefits of holistic healing? And why should you focus on healing your mind, your body, and your spirit, and not just one of those 3? I'll give you an example. So if you are somebody who has experienced trauma and maybe gone for a period of time with it unhealed or unprocessed, or maybe you have worked on one part of that, like gone to therapy and really talked your guts out and tried to heal through therapy. Maybe you started to notice that you felt better in one area, but you started to develop physical symptoms. So that was me. So headaches, stomach issues, I started having ulcers, anxiety, additional things besides it wasn't just affecting me emotionally, at which therapy helps me with, but now it was affecting me physically, and started having different health issues. So being able to focus on your body physically is super important. Your spiritual, the spiritual aspect of you is also a huge benefit to your overall healing. And all of them, again, they overlap and work together. So you want to pay attention to each of those areas in order to heal and to take control, be able to gain that control back after trauma, to be able, that doesn't mean you're going to completely heal. You know, I don't know if anyone ever completely heals, but what I call and what I feel like healing is being able to gain control of your mind, your body, and your spirit again. Having control of it, knowing how to get it back into normal reality, or parasympathetic nervous system, to get that back into alignment. That to me is healing. And so hopefully this has made sense to you and you're seeing that. And that's why I have, over time, recognized that I have much more healing to do. On top of therapy, and started to really dive into spiritual healing, emotional healing, physical healing, and that is where I felt like I got the greatest improvements and advantages, to where I felt like I had control again. And so that's why I talk so much about healing the mind, the body, and the spirit after trauma, and the importances of that, and how that's going to affect you and benefit you long term. So hopefully this made sense to you and was beneficial for you. I'd love to invite you to my free Facebook community called Trauma to Triumph, Healing Mind, Body, and Spirit, where you can receive free tactics and tips on healing your mind, your body, and your spirit post-trauma.
Right. Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for that, Dexter. We appreciate your help in the background there. So, Lindsay, what immediately comes to my mind, and we just have about 5 minutes to go, is there a big misconception with trauma that you can get to a point where the healing is complete, as opposed to what you were saying, that healing is something that takes place progressively over a particular constituted period of time? But how do we get people to understand that the healing process is an ongoing something, and it could be one that you experience for the rest of your life? But the opportunity that we get through the healing, and you can correct me if I'm not right with my understanding, is that you gain a certain measure of control, and that is where the process becomes much more easier and beneficial to the individual.
I definitely, when I first started to talk about overcoming trauma and healing, I recognized, I'm like, oh, I think that people may be thinking or not understanding. I'm not being very clear on what I am meaning by healing or overcoming, and what exactly that means. Because, like you said, we're all going to continue to face different traumas and different hard things in our lives. But what actually happens, and what I mean when I talk about healing or overcoming, is that trauma or that experience, and maybe it's multiple, no longer bothers you. It no longer rules your life. It no longer dictates how you feel each and every day. It's something that you're able to actually, once you work through it, process and release it, and work on healing all those parts of your body, that you were able to gain control again, and be able to, like, honestly, to tell you, I can't even tell you the last time I thought about my trauma, the sexual abuse
Hmm.
specifically.
Yeah.
That doesn't even enter my mind. When it gets brought up, it's a part of my life, but it does not affect who I am or what is going on in my life anymore. It actually has been a huge blessing and has helped me to become someone that I never would have been able to become had that not happened. But it was because of the work that I have done through overcoming that trauma. And so I just think it's so important to understand that having tools with you, knowing those tools and having them to help you in the future, but to, first of all, to help you to heal from the past and to gain back that control. We didn't really talk about the nervous system a lot, but that's another huge part of your body that is affected by trauma and where trauma is stored. And being able to learn how to heal that nervous system makes a huge difference in your triggers, in your emotions, in the way that you respond and react. And there's just so much to it. But what I wanted to say is, there are a lot of people who think that it's going to take a lot of time and a lot of energy to heal. And I want to tell you that that's not true. What it
Mm.
actually takes is consistent, daily, simple action.
Right.
I like to tell those who come into my program, if you have 10 minutes in the morning and you have 10 minutes at night to do specific things that I'm going to teach you,
Yeah.
as well as about an hour to work through exercises after each session, depending on what we're talking about, that is enough time. The biggest difference comes from that daily, consistent action. Over time, you're able to look back and go, wow, I am nowhere near the person I used to be. And it comes from that consistent, simple daily action.
Wow. On that amazing note, we have come to the virtual end of this episode entitled Healing from Past Trauma with Lindsey Lish Preece. And you have been a wonderful and engaging guest. Thank you for your vulnerability, for your honesty, and for the expertise that you have been sharing with us. I know it was appreciated deeply by the audience, those listening and those viewing as well. As we leave, we just want to ask Lindsay to stay for about a minute or so after so that we can have a small chat with the producer. But we thank you so much for being part of this episode, part of this program, part of this broadcast as we continue to grow and develop and build this community so that people can be empowered and they can also be inspired to take firm positive action. And as Lindsay said, 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening, that's all it takes. Small incremental steps, and eventually we get the big picture of how we can overcome and lay aside the negative aspects of depression and anxiety and all the other things that come along with it. So, as we leave, let me remind you to stay in peace, stay with God, stay with hope, and stay with love, and continue to approach each day with a renewed and re energized effort to overcome all the aspects of trauma and depression. Do all that you can to continue to break out of depression. Bye for now. Until next time, Godspeed, God bless. Take care. We love you.